And the country's 3.3 trillion shilling budget is expected to be delivered by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Yatani tomorrow before Parliament, with a focus on economic recovery, post-COVID-19 and the Big Four agenda. Now, the biggest beneficiaries of the budget are the Ministry of Education, which has been allocated the lion's share of the budget at 525 billion shillings, followed by the Ministries of Energy, Infrastructure and ICT. However, critics have faulted the government for not allocating enough funds to agriculture, which is very critical to the livelihood of millions of Kenyans. Our very own Faisal Ahmed unpacks the 2022-2023 budget allocations.
Unlike the previous years where the national budget is presented on the second week of June, this year Treasury Cabinet Secretary Yatani will be presenting the budget 2 months in advance to allow time for MPs to campaign before the national elections. But that has not changed the continued increase in the budget estimates year on year, with this year's budget at 3.3 trillion shillings, the country's biggest budget yet. According to the budget policy statement, the National Treasury has placed emphasis on the economic recovery of the country after the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and completing the Big Four agenda projects underway. In the budget expected to be presented on Thursday by CS Yatani, the education sector is the biggest beneficiary with an allocation of 525 billion shillings. A majority of the funds, 295 billion shillings, to be absorbed by the Teacher Service Commission. Early learning and basic education will also get 106 billion shillings. The energy, infrastructure and ICT sector were banded together in the budget with an allocation of 368 billion shillings, with the Ministry of Energy getting 85.1 billion shillings and the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining expected to get 9.3 billion shillings. Under Public Administration and International Relations, the Office of the President is set to get 8.1 billion shillings. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will get 19 billion shillings. The National Treasury allocated itself 189.9 billion shillings. And the State Department of Planning, which is under the National Treasury, has also been allocated 48 billion shillings. National Security has been allocated 203 billion shillings, with the Ministry of Defence getting 157 billion shillings, with the National Intelligence Service getting 45 billion shillings. Under Governance, Justice, Law and Order, the sector has been allocated 231 billion shillings, with the National Police Service getting 143 billion shillings, State Department of Correctional Services getting 30 billion shillings, and the Judiciary expected to get 18.2 billion shillings. The agriculture sector has been allocated 60 billion shillings. However, this has caused an uproar among sector analysts who say that the sector has been underfunded for years, yet is the most critical in the country.
Are we in line? Are we growing in the right direction? Focusing on things like food sustainability. If you ask me today, where I would expect to see a bigger budgetary allocation should be in the area of food sustainability. All the measures to do with irrigation, for instance, because we cannot rely on the rain. Once I was told that we don't have a contract with God to supply rain at a constant time, and we are seeing that happening.
When I look at this year into agriculture, I think the big things I'll be looking for is whether the government will increase investment in the sector, whether we'll see revival of some of the irrigation programs that we'd seen earlier on at the beginning of President Uhuru's tenure, whether there'll be a policy shift for us to divest away from rain-fed agriculture, maybe to a little bit of technology-driven production.
Out of the 3.3 trillion shilling budget, 2.14 trillion shillings will be sourced from ordinary revenues, with the remaining coming from borrowed funds, leaving a fiscal deficit of 846 billion shillings. The government has a borrowing room of 400 billion shillings, having borrowed 8.6 trillion shillings with a cap of 9 trillion shillings. Faisal Ahmed, Citizen TV, Nairobi.